Kaden Green and Jaxon Island make up Newcastle post-black metal band Imperfectionist, who released 2 EPs last year, Magnolia and Chrysalis. Guys, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us,
Thanks for having us.
You're really welcome. Now, just so everyone can get an idea of which one's which, just briefly say who you are and what you do in the band.
Well, I'm Jaxon. I do vocals, guitar, bass, and mixing, mastering.
And I'm Kaden, and I do the exact same thing. We kind of split it evenly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting thing about the band. I want to bring that up a little bit later. But first up, when did the band start? How do you guys get together?
Probably early last year. We were kind of both had a bit of spare time for the first time in a long time, and had planned on doing some kind of music together for ages, and saw the opportunity and just started playing around with it, and kind of it wasn't overly intentional. We just wrote a song and then we're like, okay, let's keep doing this.
Yeah, it basically just started because, I mean, we have similar music tastes, and we both wanted an outlet for our metal composition that wasn't necessarily just entirely on our own. So I think it's a lot easier to coordinate a vision and bring that into being between two people rather than a band setting. But that's just, I think because of the genre, I guess.
And how did you guys meet?
It was at a party maybe 4 years ago or something, and I was wearing a Flesh God Apocalypse shirt, and Kaden was like, hey man, nice shirt. And I was like, fuck yeah. And then, we just sort of became friends.
How about the name? Where'd that come from?
Kind of, it reminds us kind of what we're trying to do, because we've both written heaps of music before and just redone the same thing 1,000 times and never been happy with it, and it never gets released. So we kind of use it as a reminder to actually finish things and not rewrite them 10 million times, and just enjoy the little weird bits and shit like that. Yeah,
we can be kind of gentle and forgiving with ourselves because we've sort of set up a premise of, not
ourselves.
Yeah, not expectations or anything like that. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because I've talked to a couple of bands in particular who do a lot of reworking. They'll keep just jamming particular tracks. That's the specific way that they really work towards the finished product. And it's interesting talking to them because they eventually settle on a version they're happy with. But I talk to them, and basically they could just keep jamming it, and they'll probably, if they were looking for perfection, they'd kind of never get there. Yeah. To be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, man, we've done that plenty of times.
I mean, art is inherently imperfect, so, and it sounds cool, it's a nice sounding word.
When did you start working on the first one? You said you started writing a song together. How did that process work towards you actually recording an EP and releasing it?
Well, we had, as we mentioned, we just both write a fair bit of music, so we had some material just ready to go. So we basically just we just sat down one day and started writing a song just to see, how our synergy was, what would come out if we liked it, whether we wanted to take it or whatever. And then it was, it just worked. So we were like, okay, this is pretty cool. So then we took other bits that we'd written individually and just worked on them together so that we could sort of start building a unified sort of theme or sound or something, And yeah, I mean, it was all pretty just natural, I guess.
Yeah, we're not putting too much pressure on ourselves. We're just enjoying it.
And what is that synergy like? What does it mean that you can write together and produce something, as opposed to like how is that distinct from like, no, we don't work together, this project's not going to go anywhere?
I don't know, like it's a similar thing to when you jam with someone and sometimes it just clicks and you can just kind of like go for hours kind of thing and just find each other's, you know, spots where you thrive and stuff like that, and you just bounce off each other. And like that doesn't always happen kind of thing. And when we like started writing, it just came really naturally like that. So we just kind of just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a feeling really. Like, you know, we both felt that there was more to explore artistically with each other and shit. So we're just taking that as it is, you know?
And keeping it organic kind of thing. Like, I don't really like playing with Guitar Hero, Guitar Pro,
Guitar Pro,
and shit like that. I prefer to just go off the bat and see what happens. It's pretty handy.
Yeah, we're both pretty organic, feely people. Like yeah.
Start with you guys individually, like separate the band. How do you, I'll start with Jaxon, then we'll go to Kaden. How do you guys write? Like you're in whatever place that you feel is comfortable to write. You're in the right mood to write. What is that like, and what process do you take towards generating ideas that might eventually turn into a song?
Well, for me, it's like, I guess I just a lot of the time channel like reflections of my past or future selves, and like how I have felt, how I would feel. Self-criticism is a big inspiration, so I'll just like pick up a guitar and just start playing around with riffs or whatever until I find something that reflects a sort of an outlet that I think is well aligned with my inner turmoil, I guess. Because I think, well, for me, like the reason I make art is it's like it's a cathartic release. You know, like I get frustrated and grumpy if I go too long without making it, and then I might be like, man, why am I so like pissed off all the time? It's because I haven't actually formed an outlet for those emotions and that sort of inner grief and self-criticism. So I just like pick up a guitar and try and just play around until I get something that reflects what I feel at the time or what I have felt. Maybe an ideal self that I can't materialize, or a past self that I've rejected, or something like that. Yeah.
I'm really easily inspired, really. Like, pretty much every day I don't know, just hear something or think of something, or just some dumb shit will just give me an idea, and then I'll go home and start recording straight away, regardless of what it was. Like, it's probably only, I don't know, a third of the time I'm writing heavy stuff. So inspiration can kind of come from anywhere with me, but it's just, I don't know. It's always in the back of my head, one way or another. It just depends on what genre I'm feeling like doing, I guess. But yeah, I've got all the like set up at my house, so it's really easy for me to just walk into a room and just start recording stuff.
You guys coming together, like, say you've got two different song ideas, either from past material or something you've generated recently. Like, what does it look like for you guys to try and, I don't know, either flesh out one of those ideas, mesh those ideas together? What's that like for you two?
Jamming.
Yeah,
jamming and pedals.
We just play things to each other, and then one of us might be like, "Ooh, that's pretty fucking nice," and then, you know,
or just completely scrap it.
Yeah, or that, yeah. And, you know, just keep doing that until we can bounce off each other, and just track basically everything we do, so that way we can later on get rid of what we don't want, or we've always got the things that we might see something in later on. Just a lot of jamming, really.
Yeah, even though we're called Imperfectionists, we've still got a graveyard like every other band.
And that's kind of interesting, because you're a two-piece, but like you're both, you know, really good, your guitar guys. So how does that work without having some drummer to like put in that I don't know, the beat, the rhythm for you guys?
Well, we have Robin Stone of
A million bands.
Yeah, North, Somnium Nox. I think he plays for Convulsing Live, and yeah, so yeah, we'll like program some drums in and then send it to him, and he'll give us his creative input. Like he'll take those and interpret them and send us something back, send us stems, and we're like, we really like this, or we want this change, blah blah blah. So it's like, although he's not present in the studio and the recording process, there's still like a reasonable degree of creative synergy going on between us. But also, like, I am primarily a vocalist rather than a guitarist as well. So it's interesting that Kaden is a guitarist who does vocals and I'm a vocalist who does guitar. We've kind of got like a bit more prominence in each of our respective instruments. So it's good that we can sort of, guide each other in each of our fields, I guess.
Yeah. For the initial jam, Easy Drummer, man, so handy. And we'll just jam on that, get the idea. We never go too deep into the drums because we know Robin's going to completely annihilate it regardless of what we send him. So just having that confidence in the background always helps as well.
So how do you guys team up with Robin for this endeavour?
Mostly just through messages.
Yeah.
We just communicate online because he lives in Sydney and we're from Newey, so...
Yeah, I see him at gigs every now and then. But yeah, mostly just technology.
How'd you get to know him?
Previous bands and projects and stuff like that, and also just being a fan of pretty much all of his bands.
Yeah. The dude's pretty ridiculous.
So we've got Magnolia out. Having released that initial EP, comes together nicely, really, really cool stuff. Do you take that? Do you take any lessons, like any learning from that and apply it to Chrysalis?
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. A big thing that we wanted to work on, or there were two major things. The first was like the production, because it's pretty like it's well, it's not bad, but it's like it's a really important part of conveying your sound and your theme, to make all the tracks clear and distinct within themselves and, blend together and yada, yada. And the second thing was, we wanted the songs on the second EP, we focused a lot on like flow, like transition between phases, because like we personally felt that Magnolia was a little bit too like choppy in its phrases.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to sort of make the song sort of have a better flow, I guess.
Yeah, just try to improve on all our weaknesses.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we're not the type of people to just sort of be content making mediocre things. And, even if what we make might be considered mediocre by some, just personally, we want to bring the best out of ourselves. So we're just going to continually aim to get better.
One thing that I kind of noticed, and maybe... I don't know, maybe I'm imagining it, but like I got a feeling of a little bit more emphasis on dissonance in some parts of the track. Is that something you guys were, I don't know, focusing on, or that emerged for whatever reason during the writing process for that one?
Name drop. Yeah, man, we love dissonance in all forms. Like, if we can ride with it, we'll go as hard on it as we can. Fair bit, well, not a fair bit, but we definitely had more confidence going into Chrysalis than we did on Magnolia, because that was the baby, that was the freshie.
Yeah.
So once we'd done that, we're like, okay, we can kind of just do whatever we're feeling now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just more confidence, I guess.
Yeah, it was just, we knew we could do it with Chrysalis, so we just thought, fuck it, let's just try and improve, try and make something better. Just, yeah. Yeah.
Looking at the credits of both albums, I noticed that Kaden is credited as doing vocals on Chrysalis. Why did you do vocals on that one, not the previous one, Kaden?
Because I'm only just competent to do it now. I've done like some other stuff on different things, but they've only been tiny, and like definitely didn't have the confidence to go in on Magnolia. And then once we're all done, pretty much once we finished Magnolia, we're like, okay, on the next one, I'm going to do vocals as well. So I started practicing from then, and, you know, I'm still nowhere near where I want to be, but I can make some sounds sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely an established thing. Like, it's from here on out, it's going to be dual vocals on every release, just because, you know, we can, and why not?
It's fun.
Yeah.
Speaking more generally about the vocals, like, how do you approach the lyrics? Is there particular themes you're drawn to? Is there particular sources of inspiration that you look for?
We both naturally write pretty negatively, I guess.
Yeah.
We don't... A lot of the time we won't even theme it. We'll just kind of sit around listening to it and, like, write down some stuff, and then we'll talk about it. And 80% of the time what we've written is right up the same alley anyway.
Yeah. For me, I personally like condensed messages, and I focus on, like, esotericism a lot, just like dreaming and altered states of consciousness and stuff. So that's pretty applicable to a wide range of themes, which is pretty nice. But, like, that's at least my lyrical approach is emphasis on esotericism and sort of condensed messages, metaphorical, I guess.
I'm just an angsty hippie, really.
One last question about the music on the records. They all, I think all the tracks feature some aspects of environmental samples. What was the importance of those on the records for you?
That comes back to the angsty hippie part.
Yeah. It just, I mean...
Originally, it was going to be the city for Magnolia, and whatever came next, like, which ended up being Chrysalis, it was going to be rainforest samples, but the rainforest just didn't work that well, I guess. And, you know, like, the ocean is just as good as the rainforest. It just had to be nature. That was the main kind of thing we were going to, trying to create a bit of a opposite-ish kind of idea. Like, actually, Chrysalis was supposed to be not as heavy as it ended up becoming.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the more peaceful of the two, but that clearly didn't work.
Yeah, and it, like, the environmental samples sort of reinforce the idea of escaping the city, and this, like, the music and the creative process for us is, in a sense, like an escape from, you know, the oppression of modern society and, you know, all the sort of typical anti-establishment perspectives. So it's just, like, it just helps immerse the listener and reinforce that feeling of, like, having a sort of a space to escape to.
We hope, anyway.
Yeah, that's the intention.
Moving on to kind of the next, part of making a record is, like, the recording, mixing, mastering. You guys did that yourself for the most part. Did you guys have previous experience in doing that for music?
Yeah, both of us do.
Yeah, we've both been doing that stuff since we were teenagers, kind of thing. Doesn't necessarily mean we're particularly good at it, but we at least like to think we know what we're doing.
Yeah, and there's, like, you can hear there's a big improvement between Chrysalis and between Magnolia and Chrysalis. We just sort of, learnt some little tips and spent a bit more time actually really honing the sound that we wanted to the, to basically almost the breaking point of our sanity. Because, like, on the back end of the EP, we were spending like 30 hours a week just listening, editing, bouncing, and then just editing, bouncing, and just listening through all mediums. It just, it was brutal.
And I pretty much lost all my different speaker sources, so it got down to I could either listen through my monitors in the studio or just a little Bluetooth speaker I had. So that fucked me over way harder than expected. And also Frog came through at the end with some amazing tips. We sent it to him and he almost immediately sent back
phase like, reversing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Phase cancelling on the snare. Yeah.
But just basic shit that we hadn't even thought of. Just like one paragraph that changed everything. Thanks, Frog.
So we mentioned, I think, right up the top of the interview, it's a band where you guys have kind of that broader range of doing basically everything in the band between you two. How do you split up the work of doing all these different things?
It's pretty much like in terms of writing, it's pretty much turn for turn. Like we'll literally just hand each other the guitar, and then someone will start writing something, and then the other one will grab a guitar, and then we'll start jamming, and it evolves from there, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's basically like we'll write the riffs, and we'll both write two parts always, one over each other, just harmonizing with each other the whole way through the song, and then like for bass, it's like, okay, I'll do this bit, now you do this bit, now I do this bit. We
both fiends for bass.
Yeah. We just play swapsies, really. I mean, it's a pretty childlike approach, and we just to make it fair. I mean, we both are really excited about writing music, so we've just got to split it right down the middle.
And like, I think it makes it a lot more interesting for us, and like musically to do it that way, just because we don't necessarily write the same.
For the titles of both records, why did you choose them?
Well, I think originally Magnolia, it tied in with the flowers on the artwork
and the color,
and it's also, it could be a name for the girl. I mean, like naming for us is just sort of like,
yeah, that's
shit.
The very last step.
Yeah, like
we don't premeditate that much.
We've written music and we're like, oh fuck, we got to give it a name. So we'll just send ideas back and forth until we're like, yeah, okay, we both like this one. And
Chrysalis is way easier because Alison had already done the moth for the artwork. And the whole time I was like, okay, it's got to be moth relevant. I kept saying, Jaxon, like, okay, what's a good moth relevant and that we can use the album? He had nothing, and then like we struggled with it for ages, and then like 3 days before he's like, Chrysalis. And apparently he just neglected to mention it the entire time. I was like, okay, fuck, man.
Yeah, I definitely intentionally neglected mentioning that, not just hadn't thought of it yet. But yeah, that was...
Yeah, sorry, that's probably a bit underwhelming.
It's also thematically appropriate, I guess. Like, to have a release of a relatively new band called Chrysalis is like, there's something in there about coming out of a shell and shit, like it's...
Like, yeah, a lot of it is about, I guess, in a really, really vague kind of way, bettering yourselves and stuff like that. So, and it's also like our second release, and we plan to do an album next, so it's kind of the Chrysalis stage of Imperfectionist as well, and a lot of the lyrical themes in it relate to it as well. Magnolia is a bit more
cut and dry. Yeah.
So you mentioned Alison Kelly, who did the artwork for both. Very, very different pieces. What was, like, did you have any sort of, I don't know, ideas that you provided to her for the things you were after?
Yeah, but also she does cool shit.
Yeah, she has a pretty reasonable repertoire of artwork that she's just done that, she's basically just given us permission to just, she's like, if you want this to be an album, like, I can do some new material for you, or you can just pick something I've already done if you like it. And so, yeah, like it's pretty, it's pretty straightforward.
I think we had like 40 different pages of art for that we just chose for Magnolia.
Yeah.
She just sat down with us and cut it all up and made a thing.
Yeah, we do little bits of input, like, maybe we want like the color spectrum to be slightly altered, or whatever. But as far as the piece itself compositionally is concerned, that's all her.
Yeah, and like intentionally kind of thing, like you want that to be her part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned album. At what stage is that? What thoughts do you have about what it's going to be?
I mean, we started writing yesterday, and we made some good progress on a track, which is...
yesterday was our first session.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be just, hopefully just an improvement on what we've already done, but stylistically, like, still reflective of us. Going to have... I mean, I don't want to be, like, an Imperfectionist sound, but like that's that sort of thing. It's gonna still hopefully will retain what makes this individual as a band and just push that further and harder.
Yeah, we never really aim too much to be doing anything in particular. It's just
it's
writing.
expression. Yeah.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about you guys and sort of you as musicians. What kind of attracted you in your earlier stages of life to this kind of, I don't know, heavy music?
Angsty teens and all that kind of shit. But man, mainly it pretty much all started with Cryptopsy for me. I kind of skipped a whole bunch of bands in between it and just went from, fairly regular music to Cryptopsy and just kind of got hooked on just crazy shit. And, just started bands when I was like a little fella in my teens and stuff like that, and played as many shows and wrote as much music as I could pretty much from then until now. Like, metal's not all for me, but it'll always be a heavy part of what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Unintended.
For me, when I was 8 or 9 or whatever, I liked Linkin Park and Evanescence and just the usual shit that's on the radio that as a kid you're like, oh, this kind of appeals to me for some reason. And then when I went to high school, I got into Slipknot and Dimmu Borgir and then Behemoth and stuff and Gorgoroth, and then I started sort of exploring the subgenres of metal more. I found that I had a particular affinity for black metal for some inexplainable reason. It just resonated with me really well. And that's not, I'm very much like Kaden in that, I've got most of my other projects are all of an experimental electronic nature or, something like that. I've listened to a pretty broad range of music, but definitely just, I think growing up and having something that was metal, I think is particularly unique because it's just always going to be intense, basically. And for someone going through pubescent changes or whatever, it's good to have fucking something there that you can feel like you relate to or a rage that you might not be able to express yourself. So that's how I got into sort of heavier music. Yeah.
While you mention it, in terms of electronic solo projects, you released an album last year as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, please. It was just sort of I just compose all the time, and I had a banked up amount of unreleased songs that it was maybe hindering me from getting started on something new. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to polish these off, tie them together. I did the artwork myself, just set up the Bandcamp and the Facebook page and stuff, just release the music because I had it all there. I mean, I just am always writing music, so I had to get it out, really. And I think it's sometimes you've got so many projects just maybe 80-90% finished but not quite polished off because I have pretty bad ADHD, so I just like getting started on new shit all the time. And so I noticed that I had a pretty large, bank up of unreleased material, so I just put all the, at least the tracks that sort of thematically fit together, just put them on a album together and made some artwork and just released it.
These being quite, different in a lot of ways from Imperfectionist. Is there different things that motivates those two different sets of music?
Yeah. For Zenalia, that project is essentially an expression of my dreams. I dream of sort of a future post-human dystopia a lot. So, I like writing about, the themes of, loss and solitude, they're all still in there somewhere, but it's more of I guess a comfortable, just a comfortable machine dominated sleeping humanless future world, I guess. If I had to summarize it, it's just, yeah, as opposed to something that is like Imperfectionist, which is more pertaining to nature and like an escape from society rather than a different form of society, I guess. I'm not that good at wording that, but yeah, that's pretty close.
And what kind of, I don't know, motivates, informs those kind of ideas of the sort of post-human future?
It's just really interesting to me. I mean, I like a lot of vaporwave as well. So seeing what other artists, how they interpret sort of like the retro revival sort of thing, or like 2814 and Blank Banshee and Chesimasuta. They're all pretty big influences on like sound design for me, and Burial as well. But just like, I like contributing to just some strange sort of interpretation of this weird future world that a lot of there's like a wave going on, I guess, of that at the moment. And so it's nice to try my hand at, expressing how I interpret that.
I want to start off with Kaden for this question. When do you guys start playing like guitar, bass, and I gather that it's more of a guitar approach for both of you, or correct me if that's wrong, but like when do you guys start with that kind of instrument, and why do you stick with it?
I actually wanted to be a drummer, to be honest. Just money and the impossibility of practicing it in a suburbia kind of deal led me to guitar. Actually, I think I started on piano. I don't know. But guitar's just fun and handy as hell when you like metal. Like, that piano and guitar really translate with each other as well. So, I don't know. It's just a really good instrument to have on your belt kind of thing.
Well, I'm just self-taught. I mean, I essentially just like started learning guitar when I was in high school because, I just liked metal, and guitar was the thing that I wanted to do in metal. I liked the sound and the abrasiveness, and it's something you could do like with a group of friends, and just never really got lessons and just played at it and played at it and played at it. I mean, I'm still not very good because I don't practice that much, but like I understand how to use the instrument, and if I play enough times, I can track some things. So that's pretty good. I mean, yeah. And like it's essentially, I see guitar as like a necessary tool for the genre that I compose in for Imperfectionist, really. Like that's about it. I'm not like mega passionate about it or anything, but it's just a tool to be utilized for expression.
Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier that you kind of think of yourself primarily as a vocalist. When did that start for you?
About the time I got into black metal, when I was like 13 or 14, I just tried it and realized I could do it. So just kept practicing and just got better. And then realized that I actually really enjoyed being a vocalist. I think there's something I really appreciate about the idea of your instrument being vibrations from your very being. Like that idea is really interesting to me. So I guess I just resonate with that. So I just keep practicing because I like it. I enjoy it. It's a very raw and literal form of expression.
Kaden, we were discussing a little bit, but have you sort of become more comfortable doing vocals for Chrysalis? But like, when did you start actually, I don't know, your first trying to sort of produce that kind of sound from yourself?
On and off for, I guess, a couple of years, just out of necessity more than anything else, because I've got a bunch of projects that need vocals. But actually, I think it was last year, I did just a little bit of vocals for a mate's band. And when they said that, it kind of kicked me into gear, because obviously when it's, I don't know, when it's someone else's music, I take it a lot more seriously, I guess, because I don't want to fuck up their song. So I guess I started working hard at it, and Jax gave me tips and stuff like that. I swear to God, metal's so much just confidence. You just have to be comfortable just being loud and just making crazy sounds and shit like that. So that was a big part for me, because I'm generally a relatively quiet person, I guess. But yeah, that was oh yeah, shout out Tide Minds. That was Loom that I'm talking about. I should probably mention that.
Yeah, probably important.
But yeah, so I credit them for giving me the push, I guess.
And one last question for you, both of you. Start off with Jaxon. What have you been listening to, watching, or reading recently?
Well, I recently got around to watching Berserk. That was pretty damn good, because it's an anime that, or a manga. I actually do want to read it, but yeah, I just watched it because it's just been on my to watch list for quite a while, and so I was like, fuck yeah, I'm actually going to give this a crack. Artists I've been listening to lately, Dark Pyramid. They're pretty timeless for me. It's another a Hong Kong Express project. George Fitzgerald is just another electronic producer. Denzel Curry, J. Cole. Yeah, Denzel. Heritoire, 100th. I'm still on that Rivers of Nile album from last year, because that was huge. I listen to Noisy Radio every week, especially your Current Value. Current Value is damn good. Like a lot of, yeah, just Kiasmos also pretty good. Tim Hecker. 1914 I recently found. I think they put out an album last year. The Blind Leading the Blind or something. Yeah, that album's pretty damn good. I like well-produced black metal, like just straight up black metal, but with good production. And I think that's actually kind of hard to find, because usually there's other genres sort of in the mix somewhere. So that was really refreshing to find that album. Reading. I haven't actually been doing too much reading lately, but that's just because, Christmas, New Year's sort of period is a bit of a downtime for recreational. Yeah. Enjoyment.
What about yourself, Kaden?
Honestly, I've probably been listening to a lot more hip hop and stuff lately. I've been getting really into like the crazy post-hardcore shit lately, just because they're so aggressive, like Sectioned and Cult Leader and stuff like that. They're just crazy. It's cool. Somehow kind of heavier than metal in a way. Yeah. I don't know. It just that aggression gets me massively in between like rap and super chill stuff. I don't know. I kind of listen to everything. I also broke the auxiliary jack in my phone, so my music hunt's been a bit lame lately. In terms of reading, a mate just lent me that Dark Emu book, which I'm heaps excited to read. I haven't started on it yet. I'm borderline illiterate, so I'll see how that goes. But still keen nonetheless. But yeah, that's about it, man.
Also, this wasn't mentioned, but Kaden released a thing under Sparrow, and so you got to go check that out, because he did a double LP, I guess. Double LP under SPARRA, and since he won't speak up for himself, I'm just gonna be that guy and be like, yo, go check out his solo shit too, because it's good chill beats. Get into it.
Well, I've got you, Kaden. You should talk briefly about that as well. I didn't see that on the Imperfectionist Facebook, but talk a little bit about that. I'm not aware of what it is, so explain what it is and how you went about working on it.
I've been doing, like, I only recently named it because I had to release it and I needed a name to release it under. But I've been doing like beats and stuff like that since I was a teenager, like easily as much as I've been doing metal. And I've been trying to collaborate with a bunch of artists for the past couple of years, and it's just this constant wait for people, which did my head in. So I kind of just got sick of it and released a bunch of instrumental beats just so I could reach out to some people, or they could at least hear it. Because it's kind of weird when you approach a rapper and all you've got to show them is a bunch of black metal. And Yeah, that doesn't really help me that much, so I had to release something. But it's already worked out. I've got an album coming out with the artist that just moved to Newcastle called Mir, if you want to check it out. She's sick, MWR. But yeah, just, I don't know, man. Just all music is good music. I just love doing it. And yeah, I just had to release something so I could.
I wouldn't say all music is good music. BrokenCyde exists.
To someone.
Yeah, BrokenCyde is. That's like my go-to example of just like, nah, that's an invalid form of art.
The ultimate. I don't know if you've heard this term, hot take.
Yep.
Yeah. So on the sort of more political stuff that I look at, on Twitter and stuff, people talk about like hot takes, and I think BrokenCyde is good. Is like the ultimate hot take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we just continue talking shit on BrokenCyde?
I'd be happy to.
Fucking Imperfectionist. This is about BrokenCyde now.
But it's funny. I actually have like. It's funny because like they're like labeled crunkcore, but like the thing about BrokenCyde is they missed out on some of the best parts of like actual crunk. Like that actual crunk music has some good shit, and then but like they just didn't take any of that. Like you could take crunk.
John is just turning over in his not grave. He's just so like I can see him having the genre that he essentially founded labeled with that, listening to it, being like, "What have I birthed? What is happening here? What's going on?" Like
two things combined to make something not quite as good as either.
Yeah. I'll ask you the same question that I asked Jaxon. So, where does this come from for you? Is this from a different place than Imperfectionist?
My hate for BrokenCyde. No, not necessarily, man. Like, as I was saying before, I'm just super easily inspired, and I just want to be writing all the time and try to make that a thing. So, a lot of the time, I'm just writing a bunch of different shit. And sometimes it develops into a new project. Sometimes it just goes into the graveyard with the rest of them. But it's just all expression and just fun, man. I just love music.